Our story kicks off with a kid with some seriously messy hair, waking up in a hospital room looking like he doesn't even know his own name. Then, out of the blue, this super weird door, glowing with a sinister read aura, just appears floating in front of him, looking like the entrance to a secret dungeon. Getting a little closer as carefully as possible, our MC starts thinking this has to be some kind of elaborate prank. But since curiosity got the cat, and his main character instincts were screaming at him, he decides to turn the handle to see what's up with this door. The second he does, the bizarre force just sucks the kid inside like a super-powered vacuum cleaner without even giving him a chance to yell for his mom. Now, sprawled on the ground, the kid looks up, completely lost, wondering what kind of crazy isekai this is. He then realizes the door is actually a portal to a hallway that looks like it's straight out of a horror movie, long, dark, and super creepy. Mustering up his courage, he steps into the spooky place and lets out, and is anybody there? Hoping it's not Jason who answers back. A disgusting shooing sound echoes through the darkness, making the kid switch into high alert mode instantly. From the shadows, a giant skeletal creature emerges right in front of him, with 3 glowing green eyes shining like the headlights of a runaway truck. Seeing this massive monster up close sends our main character into a state of shock, totally frozen, with his soul practically leaving his body. With that, the creature lets out a roar that nearly bursts his eardrums and charges at him with the hunger of 1,000 winters. In a pure act of desperation, he throws himself out of the portal, slamming the door shut with all the strength his fear could muster. Back in the safety of his bed, the guy has a revelation: the world out there is seriously dangerous. And the door, poof, just vanished. A mysterious voice then starts speaking in his head, telling him he's awakened the world link ability. Can you believe it? Freaked out, the young man looks all around, thinking he's completely lost his mind and wondering where that narration is coming from. Just then, the voice tells him to calm down, explaining that they're communicating telepathically, like Professor Xavier from the X-Men. To survive this whole mess, he's going to have to follow orders, and the first mission is to look for a statue in his backpack. Rummaging through his bag, he finds the objective very bizarre golden statue shaped like a skull. Then the voice explains that thing is a cursed statue, placed in his backpack to basically level up his soul straight to heaven. A flood of memories starts invading his mind, and he realizes he's not the original owner of this body, which actually belongs to a student named Shenyi. Turns out, the real Shenyi's soul was completely deleted by that statue's curse. What a terrible way to get taken out. At the same time, back in his original world, our MC also clocked out for good from overworking, and his soul traveled across the multiverse, hitching a ride in this empty body. The mysterious voice continues the lesson, explaining that when a curse like this fails, it grants an absurd amount of power, accumulated over millions of years of stealing souls. It's like a bug that became a feature. As the statue turns to dust, the voice tells him to summon the door again, because the item is now all his. With a simple thought, the door appears in front of him once more, all thanks to his new, fancy named ability, World Link. A title, Polite Person, appears floating on the door. He earned this achievement for being so well-mannered when he first entered. It's a gray, somewhat damaged title that, when equipped, makes people have a slightly better impression of him. A social buff, you could say. Our guy wonders what that is, figuring it must be like a passive skill he can equip, just like in RPGs. Just then, the voice warns him that its energy is running low and that the bad guys who used the statue will be back as soon as they find out their plan failed. The name Nightmare Realm appears on the door, and the voice explains that's the name of the world he entered and where it is imprisoned. With one last request, the entity asks the young man to get stronger to free it, promising a nice reward in return. After that, the voice fades away. Our main character gets ticked off that someone's already trying to erase him, but he can't find any memories of the old Shenyi picking a fight with anyone. With no weapons or attack powers, he decides to equip his new and only title, planning to enter the door again to see if he can farm something better. He remembers the giant skeleton and is already hesitant, but decides he'll just go in and stay close to the exit, ready to bolt if things get dicey. He then comes up with a plan. Maybe he can negotiate with the monster. With the Polite Person idol active, his chances of success with his silver tongue should be higher. Back in the Nightmare Realm, he faces the giant creature, and the kid starts to seriously doubt if his plan was a good idea after all. With the Polite Person idol activated and the courage of a chihuahua, the young man tries his luck and introduces himself, saying his name is Shenyi. To his surprise, the skeletal creature just lets out a growl, and its 3 fiery green eyes stare at him without blinking, analyzing the situation. Our MC then apologizes for interrupting its snack time and says that, honestly, he'd really like to become friends with the big guy. The monster doesn't seem to like that idea one bit and lunges toward the young man for a direct attack. Friendship successfully declined. With reflexes worthy of a ninja, the guy manages to jump back, and the skeleton's claw hits the ground with enough force to open up a crater. Back in the hospital room, the kid complains about the violence, muttering that he just wanted to have a friendly chat. Come on, big fella. Inside the portal, the monster reveals its foal from a hideous skeletal centipede that starts destroying everything around it. One of the creature's attacks hits the door dead on, and the force of the impact throws our main character onto the bed like a ragdoll. Sitting up, he breathes a sigh of relief for having escaped by a hair's breadth, noticing that if the door is destroyed, it simply vanishes and reappears later. A system message like a game pop-up appears in front of him, warning that he can only earn one title per day. What kind of nerve is this? With this, the kid understands he needs to solve this mess now, because with the skeleton blocking the way, he won't be able to farm any better titles. Confident, he bets everything on his past life. He was a top-tier salesman and is going to use his level 100 charisma to negotiate. Upon returning to the nightmare realm, the creature is actually confused, not understanding why this persistent human came back so quickly. Without a second thought, the monster attacks again, but this time, it completely shatters the door that was behind the main character. Shenyi, however, remains calm, even with no way to escape, and tells the skeleton that its attack was totally useless. He then explains that the creature can't devour him, since he can just return to his world. So the only option left is to sit down and talk. The creature gets even more ticked off by the human's audacity and charges at him with absurd speed, ready to flatten him. However, the skeleton stops its attack just inches from his face, looking as if the proposal finally sparked the interest of that pile of bones. The monster then turns and starts to walk away, making Shangyi scream in desperation, begging the creature not to abandon him there. Pointing at the skeleton, he says he noticed an important detail: its bones regenerate when it eats, but it still has several fractures and injuries all over its body. Hearing this, the skeletal creature stops walking immediately, as if the topic finally caught its attention. Shen Yi pulls out his phone and shows an image, saying that in his world, there are calcium pills, a legendary item made to strengthen bones. He explains that if they become business partners, he can get these supplements for it, because in his world, friends help each other out. With a bead of sweat running down his face, he asks what the creature thinks of the proposal, knowing his entire life depends on this answer. Suddenly, a purple energy starts to swirl around them, and the kid gets tense, not knowing if the offer was accepted or if he's about to become lunch. The monster extends its claw and creates a sphere of power, making the young man think his salesman plan went very, very wrong. Thinking the negotiation failed spectacularly, he braces for the worst, deciding he'll have to think of another strategy while being crushed. Unexpectedly, an ancient scroll appears in the middle of that energy, with a skull ceiling covered in thorns. Our main character's jaw drops when he sees it's a magical contract. His plan to use his silver tongue actually worked. Reading the document, he sees the monster's name: Lord of the Underworld and Field Acquisitions Officer of the 5th Division. But at the end of the name, the real job title is revealed. The creature is basically a buyer for the underworld. Essentially, a logistics manager. Through the contract, the monster communicates, asking the human for help in recovering its strength in exchange for its services. The deal seems fair and can be cancelled at any time. To seal the deal, he just needs to sign on the dotted line. Using his own finger, the young man signs his name, and his own impressive titles appear right below on the scroll. Shenyi is surprised by his own credentials, feeling pretty awesome for being the controller of the two realms. He can totally put that on his resume. With both of their signatures, a blue light engulfs everything, and the contract between them is officially sealed. Now, the human and the skeletal creature are partners, forming the most unlikely alliance since Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. Back in his world, we see a modern building while a female voice asks the young man, whom she calls Xiao Yi, to let her know if he feels unwell. At home, his parents are taking care of him with all the love in the world, handing him a super expensive tonic and the calcium pills the boy asked for. Our main character thanks them with tears in his eyes, incredibly moved to feel the love of a family, since he was an orphan in his past life. Right in the middle of this sweet moment, there's a knock on the door, and the sudden sound puts the boy and his mother on high alert. Opening the door, they come face to face with the police officers, who show a badge and say they're there because of the incident with Shenyi. The officer then explains that incidents like this happen every year and are unpredictable, so all they can do is accept their fate. With an expression of pure outrage, our main character immediately disagrees, as he can't swallow that explanation at all. His mind flashes back to what really happened. The real Shenyu is sent to the great beyond because of a statue's curse. Upset, the young man wonders if next time he should really just keep quiet and accept his fate, visibly frustrated with this weak talk. The two officers fall silent for a moment, and the older cop seems to be thinking over the boy's unexpected reaction. Just then, the younger officer steps closer and says he understands his frustration, but that he has something important to tell him about the case. With his arms crossed, he reveals that the higher-ups approved the hospital's quarantine, and that no one else will be allowed inside to prevent more victims. Our guy notices the 3 stars on the man's badge and is surprised that a sergeant is so young, expressing his concern. In response, the sergeant says the boy is just a student with a simple life, and that the police haven't found anyone who would want to get rid of him. With that settled, the 2 officers turn to leave, saying that's all for now and that they won't bother them anymore. Watching the police leave, the boy has a thought. This curse seems so hardcore that even the government prefers to stay far away from it. Alone in his room, he continues to question things, not understanding why someone would use such an absurd power against a simple student. Unexpectedly, the sergeant returns, leaving our main character surprised and curious to know what brought him back. The officer then extends his mechanical arm, which looks like it came from a sci-fi movie, and hands his business card directly to the young man. Before leaving for good, the man gives one last instruction, telling the boy to call him directly if anything strange happens. After the door closes, the main character looks at the card, reading the officer's name, Sergeant Woefi Chuan. Sitting on his bed, the boy starts to hatch his plans, wondering if he can trust the sergeant or if he can really help with anything. With a serious expression, he comes to a logical conclusion now that the villains know he's alive. They definitely won't give up on eliminating him. His greatest fear surfaces, and he worries that the enemies might try something against his new and beloved family. With a determined look, the main character extends his hand, realizing he needs more power, and fast, to protect everyone. Filled with determination, he decides it's time to level up and get stronger, summoning the door to the nightmare realm once again. Stepping back into the other world, he already has his professional salesman smile on. After all, if it worked once, why not again, right? Standing in the middle of complete darkness, he calls out to his new business partner, asking if the big skeleton is around for a chat. Slowly, from the shadows, the creature's spikes begin to emerge, and the thing approaches with incredible stealth, like a ninja of the dark. Out of nowhere, the skeleton appears hanging upside down, like Spider-Man saying hi. Our MC, unfazed, immediately shows that he brought the promised calcium pills. However, the creature completely ignores the supplements and points one of its sharp claws at the tonic the boy's mother gave him. Looks like it is refined taste. Our guy is confused by this reaction, asking if the creature prefers the super expensive tonic over the calcium pills. A green energy then emerges from the skeleton, and the magic contract between them appears floating in the air, serving as a supernatural Google Translate. The scroll then informs him that the other party greatly desires the tonic and, in exchange, is offering a relic dropped from an enemy soldier. It's a low-level nightmare crystal, an elven relic that works like a skill USB drive, transferring knowledge directly into your brain. Our guy gets super excited about the offer, thinking that a crystal that grants skills is more than a fair trade. As soon as he grabs the item, the crystal shatters into a shower of green fragments, and a powerful energy completely surrounds him. A system screen flashes before him with that sweet notification: new ability unlocked. He learned a technique with the poetic name Moonlit Deer Walk. This is a primary movement technique for elven soldiers, created specifically to dodge and attack the indeed. Perfect for this universe. Our main character is thrilled with the result, never imagining he'd trade a tonic for an elven movement technique. What a lucky break. After the trade, he hands over the bag of calcium pills, because a deal's a deal and he had to hold up his end of the bargain. The skeletal monster takes the supplements with its claws, and its green eyes glow in the darkness, satisfied with the negotiation. With the items in hand, the creature simply vanishes into the shadows, leaving the young man alone in the place, just like the dungeon master. Back in his room, the guy crosses his arms, finding it a bit weird that his partner still hides even after they sign a contract. A noise at the door interrupts him. Realizing his parents are back, he decides it's better to lock himself in his room to avoid questions. Just then, the system starts evaluating his attributes, and he discovers that to use the new technique, he needs 3 points in agility, but he only has 2. He needs to level up. Suddenly, a mysterious and sinister voice echoes in his mind, with the person wondering how it's possible the boy is still alive. Our main character goes on high alert at the sudden voice, and when he looks at the window, he sees a dark figure hanging upside down. This tactic again. This intruder has a doll-like face that would give Chucky nightmares with blue eyes that glow in the dark. And to make things worse, he announces he's here to test our young man's skills. Without wasting a second, the masked man leaps into the room, lunging with 2 sharp blades straight at the main character. With enviable reflexes, the boy dodges the attack at the last second, dropping to the floor and splitting his legs, just like in the Matrix. The assassin then lands in a crouch and even compliments the young man's agility, while our main character thinks that was a very, very close call. Surprised, the guy finally understands this is a real attack, wondering why they've already sent someone to take him out. Trying a different approach, he activates his polite person idol and with a little smile, asks if the masked man needs any help. The intruder completely ignores the small talk and lunges for another attack, making the main character realize his kindness tactic has failed miserably. A system window then explains that titles and abilities have ranks, and his polite person idol is at the lowest tier, making it almost useless. Now the young man understands why it had no effect, lamenting that he can't use his other technique, the deer walk, due to a lack of points. Seeing that his prey is agile, the assassin changes tactics and pulls out a firearm, warning that agility can't stop a bullet. Completely cornered, the main character is in a very tough spot, and his expression shows that the situation just got seriously complicated. Just then, the system gives him a life-saving tip to idols can be consumed to gain stat points. Without a second thought, the boy decides to sacrifice his useless title. The trade is a success, and he gains 1 stat point, which the young man immediately puts into agility, raising it from 2 to 3. With the requirement finally met, a green energy explodes from his body, and the first form of the moonlit deer walk becomes available. The assassin is confused to see the boy simply disappear in a flash of light, and right after, our main character summons the door to the other world. Believing it's an escape route, the man runs into the passage, yelling that the young man won't get away from him. Upon entering, the intruder finds himself in a completely dark place, wondering if this is some kind of secret path or shortcut. From the outside, the main character reappears at the portal's entrance and, with the utmost calm, casually says goodbye to the Mr. Assassin. Realizing he's fallen into a huge trap, the man runs toward the closing door, yelling that he's got the kid and that he's going down. But in the darkness on the other side, a little surprise was waiting for him. A giant skeletal monster with 3 green eyes appears right behind him. Without so much as a hello, the creature attacks with everything it's got. The assassin barely had time to scream, "Oh crud," before becoming a snack, and well, you can imagine the rest. In the darkness of the nightmare realm, all you can hear are the sounds of the assassin being chewed on. The giant skeleton seems to be enjoying its meal. Back in his room, our main character is breathing heavily, leaning against the closet, clearly exhausted and scared by everything that just happened. With a sweaty face, the young man thinks he barely escaped, but knows that more assassins will come and that he needs to find a way to defend himself. Suddenly, a green energy surrounds him. On the system message appears the sacrifice of that living creature pleased his skeletal partner. In return, the monster offers you green quality items, and the guy is shocked to receive a crown of the pale shadow and a silver war medal. Soon after, the crown's description appears. It's an excellent item that allows the user to disguise themselves as a member of the elven race. Next, the medal's description is displayed as symbol of merit that can teleport its user directly to elven territory. With a smile on his face, the boy realizes his partner is quite pragmatic. Before, it wanted to devour him, but now it's showering him with gifts because of their business dealings. He just needs to put on the crown for a green light to transform him completely. Now he has long blonde hair and pointed ears, looking like Legolas's long-lost cousin. Looking at his reflection in his phone, he's impressed with the new look and already plans to go to the elven territory to farm items as soon as he gets a new title. Unexpectedly, someone knocks on the door asking if Shun Yi is home. Still in disguise, he panics, thinking it's a delivery for another assassin. A voice from the other side identifies himself as Chan Hayu and asks, relieved, if the young man, whom he calls Yi, is okay. Our main character remembers that Hao Yu is his best friend, and this whole mess started precisely because he visited him at the hospital. He quickly undoes his elf-transformation and yells that he's coming to open the door. As soon as the door opens, Hayu jumps on him with a super tight hug and, crying, apologizes, saying everything is his fault. Our main character comforts him, saying it was just bad luck. Suddenly, a woman appears and asks if that's Hayu. This woman is the young man's mother, and the two enter the apartment. She then asks why her son is alone and where his father is. His friend is shocked to hear about the super tonic, explaining that the item is extremely rare and that his buddy's family must have powerful connections. Hayu comments that Yi's parents care a lot about him and encourages him to get better soon for the high school exams. At that moment, it finally clicks for our main character. He understands that the original owner of the body is a student about to take very important exams. Because of the curse, he's already missed the first assessment, but his mother says he can still do well on the agility test. The guy reflects on the exams in this world, which test strength and agility, not just the knowledge we're used to in school. He finally understands the reason for his ability's stat requirements, but a much bigger problem is still on his mind. The kid thinks he's being hunted right now, and going to school would be like putting an attack me here sign on his back. In front of his mother, the guy remains silent, and his worried expression shows he's in a huge dilemma. With his face sweating, he comes to a difficult conclusion, thinking that maybe it's better to just give up on the exams. His mother seems to notice his anguish and hugs him tightly, pulling him close in a gesture of pure affection. Nestled in the hug, the boy hears his mother say something unexpected. She says it's okay if he doesn't want to take the tests. To his parents, the only thing that matters is his safety. They just want their son to be well and safe from all harm. Hearing these words, the main character's eyes light up, and the young man seems deeply touched by his new mother's unconditional love. With a new resolve, he pulls away from the hug, smiling and tells her not to worry, because she has no idea how strong he's become. His mother watches him with a loving gaze, her expression a mix of pure love and a mother hen's concern. Our guy thinks that if he asked to quit, his mother would agree instantly, but he can't do that and decides to go to school the next day. Memories of the body's previous owner begin to surface, and he understands that the family, especially the grandfather, is very important and influential. However, his parents have a terrible relationship with the grandfather and the rest of the family, and have always fended for themselves through sheer grit and courage. Because of this, the main character realizes something very important: his parents would never have the money to buy that super tonic. The only explanation is that they swallowed their pride and begged the grandfather for the item, all for his son who, in reality, had already passed on. With this new determination, he decides he can't waste their efforts and, to break the mood, asks his mom to make a late-night snack. Sometime later, the two friends are sitting at the table with the main character's mother, and our young man is eating noodles while the others watch him. The next day, the boy arrives at a huge, super modern school building. The sky is blue, and several students are walking toward the entrance. Looking at the textbooks, he's surprised by the subjects, which include things like body mechanics, psychic energy, and strength training. Now that's a school. Our guy feels relieved to be at school, surrounded by people, thinking that no assassin would be crazy enough to attack in such a public place. Suddenly, a classmate approaches with some fresh gossip, telling him that a certain Xiao Yibenji is looking for him in the hallway. The main character remembers her as a friend of the old Shen Yi, a girl who was always nagging him to study more. Arriving in the hallway, he finds the young woman in her uniform, staring at him with a serious expression as other students pass by in the background. With an air of superiority, the girl comments that she heard he came back for the exams and brags about doing well on the first one. Our main character just congratulates her with a forced smile, but her expression indicates the conversation was far from over. With a shy look that fools no one, she finally drops the bomb, asking him not to contact her anymore from now on. Around them, other students notice the drama brewing and, like good gossipers, gather around to watch the show from the front row. The girl then starts with that "it's not you, it's me" speech, saying they're from different worlds and that it's better if they just stay friends. She even shows her phone, revealing she deleted his contact. Our guy gets annoyed, thinking she's only doing this to humiliate him in public. Unexpectedly, a friend of the girl steps in front and starts yelling, accusing him of being a disappointment and of treating someone who gave him so many gifts badly. With crocodile tears in her eyes, Xiao Yibenji pretends to be hurt and activates her soap opera actress mode, trying to play the victim. Our main character, however, doesn't fall for this cheap trick. Realizing the manipulation, he decides to play her same dirty game. He then turns to the crowd and launches his counterattack, saying she doesn't really care about him. With the coldness of a negotiator, he offers to pay for everything and states that he has every right to find someone better. With a serious look, the guy raises a finger and delivers the final word, warning her not to even think they can still be friends. A true game over. The girl's friend explodes with rage at the rejection she just witnessed, screaming that Shen Yi is a complete jerk for what he did. Just like that, the entire crowd turns into a mob against him, accusing our MC of humiliating the poor girl who supposedly liked him so much. The girl even tries to explain herself, but her friend stops her. In her thoughts, she's furious because she wanted to dump him and now it looks like she's the one who got dumped. Then what do you know? A huge guy appears out of nowhere, blocking our hero's path with a not-so-friendly look on his face. With a furious glare, the bully warns that the girl hasn't given him permission to leave yet. Since when is she a final boss? Our main character recognizes him as Sun Ming, the third best student in the school. With zero patience, the guy tells him to get out of the way because class is about to start. Sun Ming then flashes the classic RPG villain smirk and shows his fist, warning that he's leveled up and that the young man should apologize if he doesn't want to become her punching bag. With a sigh, our main character looks totally defeated, explaining that the girl was the one who called him over and, in the end, agrees to apologize. He then turns to the two of them with a heartbreaking expression, saying they won and that he's sorry. With a crocodile tear rolling down his cheek, the boy continues his Oscar-worthy performance, asking if she's happy now that she got what she wanted. Pretending to sob his heart out, the young man runs down the hall, leaving Sun Ming in the crowd of gossipers just watching the scene. The other students are shocked by his reaction, commenting that the boy seems heartbroken, which makes the girl super embarrassed. The girl panics and tries to defend herself, saying she didn't want to force him into anything and that it's all Sun Ming's fault for getting involved. In her mind, the young woman completely freaks out, wondering why she said that, unblaming the bully for ruining her humiliation plan. Sun Ming realizes the whole thing backfired and, furious, runs after the main character, yelling that he's going to teach him a lesson. The bully finally catches up to the young man in an empty hallway and, without a word, throws a punch straight at our hero's face. However, our main character dodges it with the ease of a jet and, with a swift move, grabs the attacker's arm, flipping him over his shoulder like a movie-style judo throw. A few students nearby look at the scene, and their shocked expressions show they witnessed the whole thing in slow motion. The bully's body flies through the air completely out of control, ultimately crashing right through a glass window. What a noise. Surrounded by a green aura, like a Super Saiyan, our main character shows off his power, having defeated Sun Ming and his friends without breaking a sweat. The students are in shock at his speed, commenting that the guy is much more agile and that Sun Ming didn't even have a chance to react. A green aura still surrounds the young man's body as he uses his ability. He then wonders what else the bully wants since he even apologized earlier. Suddenly, a teacher appears shouting, telling everyone to go to the courtyard because the mock exams are about to begin. The crowd scatters quickly to avoid getting in trouble, but some complain that the fight was interrupted, as it was promising to be epic. Sun Ming shoots a look of pure hatred at the main character, warning that this isn't over, but our guy just ignores him like he's some random NPC. Sometime later, the students are already gathered on the school sports field, all preparing for the start of the agility tests. While stretching, the young man is surprised by his friend Haoyu, who runs toward him waving and shouting his name. Haoyu comments that the line for the test is huge and invites his friend to kill time at a new comic book store. Our main character gets a brilliant idea upon hearing his friend. Remembering he needs to collect a new title, he uses the classic stomachache excuse to go to the bathroom. With that, the guy walks away from the group, heading down a quiet, empty school hallway by himself. In a hurry, the young man enters one of the bathroom stalls, looking like he's hiding from something or someone. As soon as he's hidden, a shadowy figure appears in the hallway, materializing out of thin air like a ghost. A slender, dark creature emerges from the shadows, looking like a low-budget slender man. It's holding a small blade and starts walking toward the bathroom. In its hand, the mysterious being carries a dagger that looks like a pen, and a dark purple energy emanates from the weapon. The assassin walks slowly down the hall, its long shadow stretching across the floor, creating a very sinister scene. With an empty gaze, the creature peers into the stall but seems confused when it finds absolutely no one inside. The being then checks the other stalls, but they're all empty. It wonders where the target went, as it was sure it saw him go in there. In a completely different location, our main character reappears in his elf form, surrounded by a bright green light during the transformation. Now transformed, he explores the dark place looking for something, but hears a strange noise and stops in his tracks. Lying on the ground, he finds a pistol, recognizing it as the weapon used by the assassin from the hospital. He then checks the gun and realizes it's loaded, thinking that now he has a way to defend himself in elven territory, even if he has no idea how to use the thing. Holding a glowing item, the young man wonders where the big skeleton went, but with no time to waste, he decides to press on with his mission. Suddenly, a powerful blue energy explodes around him, and the boy stands in the center of a super intense glow. A mysterious and dark voice, the same one from the beginning of the story, calls out to him, identifying him as a human, which leaves him quite surprised. The voice says it doesn't have much power left to help him, but then, the entity hands a strange, dark object to the main character. With a focused gaze, the young man listens as the voice explains that the item is a kind of symbol of trust among the humans of that place. Right after handing over the gift, the entity and all the blue light around it disappear completely, leaving only a few fragments of energy behind. Our main character finally arrives at his destination, lying on the grass in a forest. Blue particles still float around him as the teleportation energy dissipates. Sitting up with difficulty, the young man looks around, feeling a bit dizzy and wondering if the teleport worked and if this is really the elven territory. He then picks up the dagger he received from that entity, wondering why the mysterious voice would give him a weapon like that. Suddenly, a noise in the bushes catches his attention. The young man shouts to find out who's there and spots another blonde figure hiding in the thicket. From the bushes, 3 other elves emerge out of nowhere, looking at the main character and recognizing him, calling him by the name of Fern. One of the elves with a green gem on his forehead stares at him seriously and confirms that this is indeed the so-called Fern. The group's leader complains that the guy finally showed up because he took way too long. Another elf adds that if he hadn't arrived soon, the mission would have been cancelled. Our guy makes up some random excuse for being late, but in his mind, the truth clicks. The 3 of them are also wearing the crown of the Pale Shadow, which means they aren't real elves. The group leader explains that it's no problem, as they've already gained the trust of the local tribe by posing as heroes. The plan is simple tonight. They take out the chief and grab the treasures. Our main character agrees enthusiastically, saying he can't wait to get started, while reaching up to adjust the crown on his head. In that instant, the other 3 totally panic, screaming desperately and telling the guy not to touch that thing under any circumstances. One of the guys calls him an idiot, explaining that he can't take off the crown because if his undead identity is exposed, they'll all be done for. With that, our main character just confirms his suspicions. One of the undead gets annoyed, but the other calms him down, saying that with Fern on the mission, nothing goes wrong. Our hero then realizes a huge mess he's in the mission belonged to the skeleton, who just passed the buck to him. The group leader gives the order for everyone to head to the elven village, yelling for Fern to hurry up, as his delay has already cost them a lot of time. The group runs at an incredible speed through the forest, and the main character can barely keep up, even using his top speed. In his mind, he's impressed by the strength of these undead. Finally, they arrive at a village already dark with night. One of the guys explains that to get in, they need the chief's permission, but that part's easy. Our main character is relieved, thinking he almost didn't make it. With a grim expression, the leader reveals the hard part of the mission to take out the chief, obviously. He explains that the three of them will provide cover from the outside, and our hero is the one who has to do the dirty work. Our guy is completely shocked by the order, and sweating bullets, he points to himself and asks if he's really the one who has to do the job. The three indeed stare at him with expressions of shock and suspicion, and one of them asks what's wrong and if he's trying to chicken out. Completely changing his expression, the guy flashes a sinister smile, saying there's no way he's backing down and that his blade can't wait to get a taste. One of the undead gives a thumbs up, approving of the guy's attitude. Our main character, however, thinks that if he had dared to say no, those guys would have taken him out on the spot. They approach the village gate, and the young man realizes the mission is basically an invitation to get wiped out, since the target is in his own fortress. In his thoughts, he mentally curses the skeleton for playing him for a fool. One of the elven guards on top of the wall recognizes the guy's medallion and yells to open the gates, as he's a brave soldier from the front lines. After entering, one of the undead turns to the main character and tells him to follow, as he'll take him to meet the tribe's chief. The group walks up a long staircase toward the elven village, a place built among giant trees and lit by warm lights at night. As they walk through the streets, they're greeted warmly by the residents. Some children even wave at them, completely oblivious to the group's dark plan. Two elven women in short outfits approach the main character and offer him all their affection, and he gets visibly flustered by the warm welcome. They finally arrive at a large wooden door, and the guide informs him that the chief was already expecting him and that he may enter. The group leader tells the guide to go on ahead, saying they'll wait outside, but our main character understands this is just a way to make sure he doesn't try to run. Alone, the young man walks toward the door, regretting getting mixed up in a fight between elves and undead, but seeing a silver lining he could get an incredible title if he succeeds. The guy then enters a dark and silent hallway, where only a beam of light from the end of the path illuminates his steps. With a serious expression, the young man moves through the hall, looking focused and a bit nervous about what he's about to find. At the end of the corridor, a mysterious figure stands with its back to him, reading a book in front of a huge, bluish glass window. The camera focuses on the book the entity is holding, an object that looks ancient and emanates an aura of power. The being finally turns around, revealing a white-haired elf with glowing eyes. With a smile, he welcomes the soldier from the front lines. Our main character is completely frozen in surprise, and his shocked expression shows he was not expecting that at all. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, informing him that his door ability can now analyze the titles of other beings. A nice upgrade. Countless purple, epic-level titles appear around the elf chief, like Spirit of 1,000 Forests and one of the 5 world bosses. The guy is basically a raid boss. In contrast, our main character looks at his own title, and in a puff of smoke, the simple description polite person appears. The power difference is ridiculous. With his face covered in cold sweat, the young man realizes the scale of the trouble he's in. He thinks he was naive to believe he could pull it off, since not even the undead outside would dare face this elf. Our main character compares his simple title to the elf chief's massive list of titles and, in his mind, complains that the skeleton fern put him in an impossible situation, vowing he'll remember this. The elf chief then thanks the young soldier, telling the guy to rest and enjoy the village. Suddenly, a blue light envelops the main character, and he's teleported to another location while the chief announces a grand feast. The group then appears in a tavern with a table full of food, and the teleportation energy still glows around our hero. One of the undead explains the plan to the guy. He's to wait for the target to let his guard down during the party and then attack, as I'll provide cover. In his mind, the main character realizes this is basically an invitation to get wiped out and understands he needs to think of something, and fast. Unexpectedly, a beautiful elf maiden approaches the young man from behind and asks if the Mr. Hero would grant her a dance. With a gentle look, the young woman says it's a great honor to be able to dance with a hero from the front lines. Our guy accepts the invitation but warns her that he's not a good dancer. The elf replies that it's no problem and that she can lead. The two begin to dance in the middle of the hall, and our main character seems a bit tense while the girl guides his movements with grace. They whirl around the room, surrounded by butterflies of light, and the young man seems to be getting used to the rhythm of the dance. Seen from behind, the hero continues the waltz, gently holding his partner's hand and waist. The girl smiles, enjoying the moment and snuggling up to the guy, who, however, looks quite uncomfortable with all the closeness. The young man thinks it's a shame he has to get taken out right now, because dancing with such a beautiful elf would be the highlight, if not for the suicide mission awaiting him. Just then, the young woman notices his silence and asks why he's so quiet, suggesting that perhaps the battles were too brutal. He then apologizes, saying he was just thinking about how terrible his dancing is, and takes the opportunity to ask for her name. To apologize for his clumsiness, our main character offers to do a magic trick, and Lanny, super excited, asks him to show her right away. As an early thank you, she gives the guy a bracelet as a gift, but warns that if the trick isn't good, she's taking it back. Our hero agrees without even blinking and then walks with Lanny through the crowded Hall of Owls, setting the stage for his show. Popping onto a bench so everyone can see, the young man gets the crowd's attention, announcing that he will perform an ever-before-seen magic trick. With the confident smile of someone who knows what they're doing, he reveals the name of the trick, the Great Human Transformation. He claims he can turn into a human in front of everyone. The crowd goes wild at the idea. Lanny, super hyped, yells that she's never seen a trick like that and tells him to show them already. Meanwhile, the three indeed are confused by the guy's actions, but their leader thinks it's a brilliant idea to blend in even more. Little does he know, our main character then brings his hand to his forehead, touching the crown, and with a little smirk, asks everyone to watch very carefully. A green energy explodes, and the guy assumes his normal human form. He then tosses the crown to the girl, saying it's a gift for her. Lanny catches the object in midair, looking completely surprised by the gift, while the other elves are left speechless by the scene. Everyone in the hall is impressed by the transformation. Lanny thanks him for the gift and innocently asks him to transform back. Pointing to his own head, the young man explains the secret to the trick. He turned human simply because he took off the magic crown. Then, with the coolness of a strategist, he points to his three companions, revealing that his brothers also know the same magic trick. With a sinister smile, the hero drops the bombshell. All they have to do is take off their crowns to transform into Indeed as well. The word Indeed echoes through the hall, and the elves' imagination already pictures an army of creatures with red eyes, ready to attack. All the guards go on high alert instantly, and the three Indeed are surrounded by spears, completely clueless about what's happening. Ader conveniently appears behind the main character, and he says he'll be right back, as soon as his brothers transform and become elves again. Our young man then waves goodbye to Lanny and throws himself backward, falling into the mysterious door, which closes behind him. The passage vanishes in a puff of black smoke, leaving everyone confused. The elves wonder what kind of sorcery that was. Lanny, now with the serious expression of a commander, gives a clear order to the guards, telling them to capture the three Indeed carefully. Out of nowhere, giant roots shoot out from the ground and wrap around the bodies of the Indeed, pinning the guys in place. In seconds, the three are completely immobilized by the vines, while a voice laments that it wanted to play with them a little longer. The elf chief appears in the middle of the hall, surrounded by an aura of power, and mocks the Indeed, saying it's ironic they were tricked by a mere human. One of the captives tries to explain, saying it's all a misunderstanding and that they even have the hero medallions. From behind the vines, a bizarre creature with several red eyes appears, and the crown the guy gave as a gift floats beside it, leaving the Undead speechless. The elf chief then explains that the crown possesses high-level shadow magic, and with it, they can find the spy's weaknesses and counterattack. With a faint smile, the elven leader admits to himself that he now owes a debt of gratitude to that clever human. Meanwhile, Lanny stares at the spot where the hero vanished, looking sad, perhaps thinking he will never return. Our main character reappears in a dark, destroyed hallway, realizing his move was far too risky and that he needs to learn his lesson. Suddenly, a noise catches his attention, and looking to the side, the boy spots a red skeleton pinned to the wall. It's Fern. Angrily, the hero runs toward the skeleton, yelling that while he was risking his life, the skeleton was just here, taking a nap. The skeleton wonders how the guy is still alive. In shock that he can speak, our young man accuses him of giving him the crown on purpose to get him eliminated. The creature demands to know how he survived, offering a fair price for the information. The guy refuses, stating that now the beef is personal and that he holds a grudge. A golden scroll then appears before him, informing him that the other party is sincere and has prepared a powerful Indeed spell as an apology. Our main character is furious at the offer, shouting that he can't be bought and that this is an insult to his character. Holding a purple orb, the skeleton explains its motive. It gave the crown to the guy because he's human, and since elves and humans are allies, it would give him a chance. As a formal apology, the creature offers a nightmare crystal, containing 3 of the best evolutionary Indeed talents for him to choose from. A skeleton explains that a talent is a passive ability that consumes no energy, revealing that it's only alive because they wanted this crystal, but it's giving the opportunity to the young man. With a sly little smile, our hero takes the crystal and says he's a man of principles, accepting the apology but warning that there won't be a next time. Suddenly, the scene changes completely, and the guy is now facing a gigantic skeleton king sitting on a stone throne in a skill selection menu. Next, 3 energy orbs of different colors appear, floating in front of the main character. The skeleton king tells the young man to choose one of the ancestral talents to make it his forever. The first talent is called Dark Whispers and allows you to use a body to make the deceased answer your questions. Basically, a post-mortem interrogation. The second option is the Body of Sacred Remains, which grants 5 seconds of invincibility, kind of like the star from Mario. Lastly, there's the Undead Resurrection, which allows you to revive an Undead that has already been taken out. Our hero weighs his options. Resurrection is useless to him. The immunity is good, but the whispers are perfect for finding out who's trying to get rid of him. Without a second thought, the guy extends his hand and yells that he chooses Dark Whispers, grabbing the green crystal. A powerful green energy explodes from the item, and the main character begins to absorb the power of his new and sinister talent. The power flows through him, and now he can feel the whispers of the dead. The skeleton is surprised by the young man's choice. The young man asks if there's something wrong with the talent, but the skeleton explains that it's just not a combat ability, and that everyone else chose the other options. Now that the trade is done, the guy asks the skeleton to tell him what happened, and it agrees to explain the whole situation. With that, the creature reveals a shocking detail: the original target was supposed to be an elven priestess. The man they encountered was actually the strongest priest of their race. Our hero finally understands why the elf had so many impressive titles. Meanwhile, the skeleton realizes this is its only chance to escape. Suddenly, the skeleton's body begins to crumble into dust. The guy turns and asks where it's going. He decides to let it go and take care of himself first, approaching a door and thinking that everyone has their own problems. As he opens the door, a system notification pops up: he earned the evaluation title One of Us. With it, all he has to do is say, "Hey, I'm one of us," and the target will see him as an ally for 10 seconds. The system warns that the title can only be used once a day and doesn't work on targets that are much stronger. Even so, our guy thinks the title is super useful. Right after, another message appears informing him that he has obtained the bracelet of natural blessing. He then looks at his wrist and realizes it's a gift Lanny gave him. The bracelet is of excellent quality and slowly increases his spiritual power. Satisfied with his new items, the hero walks down a hallway, deciding he needs to hide everything so no one sees his new gear. Back at the school's arena, the instructor announces the next agility test, calling for Chen Hayu to get ready. As soon as the test begins, the guy runs across the track, dodging several jets of purple paint shooting up from the ground. In the bleachers, one of his friends cheers desperately for him, telling him to stay calm. Still running, Hayu thanks him for the support and says it's nothing, claiming he can handle the situation. Out of nowhere, a large splash of purple paint hits him square in the face, while someone in the audience calls him an idiot. The teacher announces that Chen Hayu scored 71 points and tells him to be glad it's not the real exam, then calls for Shenyi. Our main character then approaches the arena, and the instructor tells him to get ready to start the test. The test begins, and the hero dodges all the paint jets being fired with incredible ease. The other students are impressed by his speed, commenting that he looks like he's ice skating, as the paint can't even touch him. Confident, the main character thinks that with the experience he's gained, this test is a piece of cake. He just needs to use his fairy steps. Seen through some kind of scope, the hero continues to move with impressive agility across the arena. Far away, two men are watching the boy. One of them comments that the kid is talented and that it's a shame he missed the first exam. The man with long hair explains that's why he asked them to keep an eye on him, because the boy has a natural talent for agility. Director Kion wonders if a perfect score isn't asking too much, as he remembers Shunyi's power being only average. The mysterious man says to wait for the results, as he might get a high score, but reinforces that only a perfect score will do. Back in the arena, the teacher announces, completely shocked, that the main character got a perfect score in agility. With that, the instructor announces a lunch break. The hero's friend is excited about his score, but the young man says he's going to the classroom to read a bit. Alone in the empty classroom, the main character rests his head on the desk, thinking that math and physics are the same as in his old world. However, subjects like history and science are a problem, since the historical figures and events are completely different. Suddenly, the classroom door is kicked open with absurd force by someone who just arrived. A bully kicks the main character's desk, sending our hero and his books flying backward from the impact. With an evil smile, the aggressor glares at the guy on the floor and says he already warned him that this wasn't over. Our main character gets up with a calm expression, saying this isn't over and asking if Xiao Yibenji sent him. Pointing at the boy, the bully yells that Xiao doesn't want to talk to him anymore, while one of his goons closes the classroom door. Surrounded by the gang, the aggressor brags that his strength has increased to 2 points and challenges the hero to see who the real number one is. Just then, our main character says there's no reason to fight, as they're all allies, and a green aura surrounds him as he activates his One of Us ability. Completely confused, the bullies look at each other, not understanding the sudden change of mood in the room. The group's leader explains that Xiao Yibenji just asked for help to vent, and the others agree that it's a problem to fight a brother. Our hero thinks that the effect only lasts for 10 seconds and suddenly, the aggressors return to normal, yelling that they're going to finish him. Finding the previous ability rather useless for combat, Shenyi activates his Devour power, absorbing a green trait and gaining 3 attribute points. The system informs him that he can also reallocate already used attribute points, and our hero decides to put all 4 points into strength. A notification screen confirms the successful boost, and his strength jumps from 1 point to 5.2. What an upgrade. One of the goons grabs him from behind, yelling for him not to run away like last time and to fight fair. The main bully approaches with his fist glowing, asking how many ribs the hero is willing to part with. Without even hesitating, the main character retaliates with a powerful kick, landing it right in the aggressor's chest. With a focused and serious look, the hero stares down his opponent, showing that he's not messing around anymore. The bully's face contorts into an expression of pure shock, completely surprised by the boy's unexpected strength. With that, the aggressor is sent flying backward with the force of the blow, screaming in pain as he soars across the classroom. To give you an idea, a normal adult has 1 point of strength and agility. With 5, our MC simply breaks free from the goon holding him, as if the guy were made of cardboard. Right after, with a super fast move, he lands a right hook on the other bully's chin, who goes flying from the impact. The other aggressors are completely shocked by the scene, and one of them comments that he broke free, as if it were absolutely nothing. It's then explained that the strength attribute isn't just about muscles, but involves the resilience of the entire body, like Constitution in an RPG. With the bullies down on the classroom floor, our main character complains that they're trying to ruin his life over some silly jealousy. The group's leader cries and begs for forgiveness, but our hero reminds him that if it were the other way around, they would have sent anyone else to the hospital without a second thought. With a serious look, the guy recalls how they humiliated him, beat him, and tried to ruin his future. He then asks if the aggressor really thinks he'll be forgiven and finishes him off with a powerful kick. The screams of pain echo throughout the school courtyard, and the other students wonder what kind of commotion is going on in there. Suddenly, the classroom door is thrown open, and a teacher rushes in, yelling and asking what all the racket is about. The man finds the classroom looking like a battlefield, with the bullies on the floor and red stuff splattered everywhere. Our hero, sitting quietly with a sad expression, tells the teacher that the aggressors were just bothering him. The teacher is outraged and yells that the guy left them in pieces and still has the nerve to say he was being bothered. In the crowd outside, a certain brown-haired girl, that Bing Bing, is left with her urge on the floor at the scene, thinking she totally miscalculated her enemy's strength. She's shocked, wondering how it's possible that all those guys together were no match for Shenyi. On her phone, a message says the plan is set, but the young woman thinks it doesn't matter anymore, as it's all over. A friend then approaches the girl and asks Bing Bing if she, by any chance, regrets what she did. The young woman has a flashback to a moment in the past where she and the main character were holding hands happy. With a sad expression, Bing Bing reflects on how things could have been different between them. Just then, the paramedics carry the bully away on a stretcher, while a gossiping student says the hero's qualification will surely be revoked because of this. With a cold smile, Bing Bing thinks that her goal was achieved in the end. Shenyi's life is ruined, and her future, just as she wanted, is completely free. The girl then tells her friend that she hates herself for not realizing sooner that the main character was, in fact, a loser. Lying on the stretcher with his face all bruised, the bully Sun Ming stares intently at Bing Bing, leaving the young woman surprised and scared. She realizes that idiot won't stop staring at her and starts to worry about what he might do next. The young woman panics at the thought that he wants to drag her into the problem with him and screams for him to stop looking at her. In her mind, she begs the guy not to say anything and to keep his mouth shut once and for all. Terror takes over Bing Bing, who can only think for him not to do it, no matter what. As he's carried away by the paramedics, the aggressor musters his last bit of strength, points a finger at the girl, and calls out her name in front of everyone. The gig is up. All the students in the hallway turn to stare at the young woman, who is left completely stunned, pale as a ghost. With her face covered in tears, the girl starts to cry desperately in the middle of the crowd, trying to play the victim. She then pulls out her phone and activates soap opera actress mode, pretending to call the police and screaming that Shunhee was solely responsible for everything. A teacher realizes that Xiao Yibinji is being clever, distancing herself from the mess and pinning all the blame on him to get away with it. With that, the teacher tells everyone to leave and calls Shenyi to accompany him to his office. In the school hallway, the principal tries to convince a man named Kion to hire some of his students, but the man says they don't meet the standards. Suddenly, a teacher runs in and reports that Shenyi and Sun Ming got into a brawl and that the police are already on the scene. The woman insists that the principal watch the video the main character recorded, but the man with the mustache thinks it's just a normal student fight. However, upon watching the recording, both men are completely shocked by what they see on the phone screen. Elsewhere, the police officers are also watching the video and are equally surprised by the footage. Our main character explains to the officer that he started recording out of fear that the aggressors would go too far, but the cop says he was the one who almost crossed the line. The officer states that even with the video evidence, Shenyi will need to come with them, as the final outcome depends on the assessment of the injuries. With that, the teacher gets worried and says the young man has already missed one test, and taking him now could harm his future even more. Meanwhile, our hero thinks he needs to use the time to adjust to the changes in his body, since his attributes have changed quite a bit. The principal finally arrives and praises Shenyi's intelligence for recording everything, saying that without it he would certainly have been expelled. Mr. Keon approaches the teacher and says that fighting them physically is useless, leaving the teacher surprised by his presence. Keon then talks to the main character, saying he noticed in the video that he was holding back from going all out on the others. Just then, the guy takes the card and sees that the man is Keon Rushan, a regional director of the Human Martial Arts Group. This organization is like the S.H. that is L. D. of the Marvel Universe, holding knowledge of vast martial arts, as well as countless super advanced techniques and technologies. For an ordinary person, joining this group is like winning the lottery, a direct path to a life of greatness and power. With tears in his eyes, our main character is moved as he realizes the golden opportunity that's right in front of him. Shenyi feels Keon's powerful aura and realizes the man is so strong it would be impossible to even lay a finger on him. The director then asks what the hero's exact strength number is, as the system estimates it to be at least 4.5. Our young man thinks that with the protection of such a strong man, he won't have to worry about assassins anymore, and replies that his strength level is 5. Upon hearing the number, both the principal and the teacher are completely shocked, unable to believe what they just heard. Mr. Keon is super impressed with the guy, while the main character wonders if a strength at repeat of 5 is really that big of a deal. The thing is, for a student, 4.5 would already be enough to get noticed, but 5 is a whole other level of power. With that level of power, it's already possible to operate combat mechs, like Gundams, and even use some of the ancient legendary weapons that are broken. The man then offers a recommendation spot and says he'll arrange a new strength test for the boy. With a smile on his face, our hero accepts the offer on the spot, thanking Mr. Keon for this unique opportunity. The director then asks, out of sheer curiosity, what Shen Yi's psychic power attribute is, since his strength and agility are already incredible. Our young man thinks he can't be good at everything and confidently says his psychic power is level 3. In the background, the teacher and the police officers are shocked once again, as they thought his power was only average. Keon then asks for a demonstration and suggests the main character use his mind to move an nearby chair. Our hero concentrates and thinks that if he allocates the points correctly, he can reach level 3 psychic power. Seeing the scene, the police captain tells his men to get ready to leave, leaving one of the officers confused. The captain explains that there's nothing more to do there, as the boy has absurd attributes in strength, agility, and psychic power. He concludes that Shen Yi is destined for a great future, while our hero finally manages to move the chair with his mind. Keon Rashin gets super excited and starts singing a random song, hugging the main character with a huge grin on his face. The principal and the teacher arrive, complimenting the man's voice, but Keon dismisses them so he can talk to Shen Yi alone. Inside an empty room, the atmosphere grows tense, and the sound of a lighter flicking echoes down the hall. The older man takes a drag and asks the young man what his goal in life is. With a smile, the main character replies that Keon Rushin's name is his goal, but the man asks for a more sincere answer. A memory of being beaten comes to Shen Yi's mind, and he says he wants to be strong to protect himself and his family. The man is satisfied with the answer and tells the young man to take the first step and try to attack him. Our main character doesn't quite understand and ends up cursing at the man, who corrects him by telling him to use his fists, not his words. Getting the message, the hero apologizes and decides to reallocate all his points to the strength attribute. With his fist glowing with a red aura, Shen Yi prepares to unleash a blow with everything he's got. However, before the punch can land, his body is paralyzed by a yellow energy, and he wonders why he can't move. Kion explains that this is an immobilization technique and asks if the young man would like to learn it. The man then pulls a gun from his pocket and tells the main character to pay close attention to what happens next. Pointing the revolver at the boy's head, Shen Yi is completely in shock at the situation. Suddenly, the man turns the gun on his own head and without a moment's hesitation, pulls the trigger. With wide eyes, the young man watches the scene, as it's explained that this is a secret art of the organization. The bullet stops in midair, inches from Keon's head, and he comments that the technique is strong enough to stop even sniper rounds. Totally impressed, the man invites Shen Yi to the Hidden Dragon Project, a secret program to cultivate the nation's new rising stars. With this proposal, he'll be recommended to the top 3 schools in the world, but first, he'll need to pass a super rigorous entrance exam. Keon explains that ordinary people never get this chance, as the exam is monopolized by the children of noble families. The thing is, these noble families possess ancient knowledge and powerful artifacts, controlling vast lands and wealth. Our main character then wonders if his grandfather might be from one of these families, since he also had his secrets. Keon says the Hidden Dragon Project was created to find talents like him, and guarantees him a spot in a good school even if he fails. If he passes, the organization will provide all the necessary support, and in return, he will work for them in the future with the best possible compensation. Shen Yi understands that in this world, strength reigns supreme, and finally accepts the man's invitation. He remembers that his family was once noble, but that his father was banished for some unknown reason. The boy thinks that because they are commoners, his parents had to beg for help, but now he is strong and above the rules. Satisfied, The man asks Shen Yi to sign the document and provide his fingerprint to make the agreement between them official. As he takes the tablet, the young man reflects on what his teachers always say, that humanity only survives by relying on the strongest. Our hero decides to join them, since they helped him. Kian is happy but warns that he also needs his parents' signatures. The man then rushes to the guy's house to not waste any time, as another organization might arrive first and steal his new recruit. In a hurry, Kian says goodbye and says he'll be back as soon as he's done, leaving the main character behind in the room. In the blink of an eye, the man simply disappears from the hallway like the Flash, leaving only a trail of dust behind with his absurd speed. The teacher and the other student peek through the door, shocked, and our hero is also surprised by the level of power he just witnessed. Shen Yi tells them he has already signed the contract, and the principal gets super excited, saying the school will be the talk of the town with this new star. Suddenly, the main character's phone starts to ring. He answers the call from an unknown number, but suspicious. On the other end of the line, Sergeant Lo Fei Ichuan introduces himself and says he's discovered something important about his situation, asking the young man to come to the police station. Without wasting any time, our main character heads to the city police station, hoping to finally get some answers. Inside, Sergeant Lo greets him and asks him to sit down, saying he has something very important to show him. Our hero obeys but thinks to himself that there's a strange feeling in the air, as if something has been very wrong since he walked in. The officer then shows him a tablet with a photo, explaining it was taken by accident and that it shows a suspicious guy on the roof of the building across from the hospital. Zooming in on the image, the boy sees a figure with white hair and sunglasses, but he quickly denies ever having seen that man before. The sergeant continues his explanation, saying that according to experts, the subject appeared to be trying to activate something remotely. With a shocked expression, Shen Yi listens to the officer's question, who wants to know if he was carrying any unusual objects that day. In his mind, our main character connects the dots at lightning speed. The guy must have activated the cursed statue, but the trail has already gone cold. The boy decides to keep his mouth shut about the artifact, thinking that since he was the sole survivor, telling the truth would only bring more trouble his way. Sergeant Lo repeats the young man's words with a suspicious tone, not seeming to believe the story one bit. With his hand on his chin, the man asks more strange questions, wanting to know if Shen Yi felt anything like a loss of control or fainting spells. Our hero denies everything but finds the questions too specific, as if the sergeant already knows something. A sense of danger runs through his body, and he feels that something is lurking, just waiting for the right moment for something bad to happen. Suddenly, the guy stands up and points at the man, remembering that his backpack was open, but he was sure he had closed it. The sergeant, with a serious look, asks if he by any chance checked what was inside the bag. The boy says he didn't and that he should have, also noticing a strange movement in Wo's hand, which puts him on high alert. Without hesitation, he reallocates all his stat points to agility, preparing to flee at any moment, but doubts he can outrun the sergeant. A bright green aura envelops his feet, and all his energy focuses on a high-speed escape. With no time to think, he prepares to open a portal right under his feet. That way, if something goes wrong, he can just step and fall through it. However, before the situation can escalate into a fight, the loud ringing of a phone echoes through the room, breaking the tension and startling our main character. The scare almost made him open the portal, but he sees it as a chance to escape and suggests leaving so the sergeant can take the call. However, the officer tells the boy to stay put and answers the phone, introducing himself as Lo Fei Ichuan. On the other end of the line, a mysterious and menacing voice says it's time for the sergeant to get taken out. Suddenly, a pink energy starts to swirl around the man, and papers and a pen begin to float in the air, leaving our young man confused. Shen Yi wonders what's happening, realizing the attack isn't against him, but is focused on Sergeant Lo. The officer recognizes the technique and gets irritated upon realizing the enemies are daring to attack right outside the police station. A deafening sound of shattering glass echoes throughout the room, breaking the silence. The window shatters into 1,000 pieces, and an intruder leaps into the room with an action movie-worthy kick. On the ceiling, a red arm starts flashing, indicating that the entire police station is under attack. A robotic voice announces the invasion and orders all non-combat personnel to hide in a safe place. Our main character looks out the broken window and is shocked. Instead of the city, he sees an ocean under a red sky and wonders how that's possible. He then recognizes the voice from the phone, but the guy isn't the same one from the photo. The intruder, wearing pajamas, reveals he came to get revenge on Sergeant Lo Fei Ichuan. Meanwhile, the fake sergeant is surrounded by his men in a strange place. He says he's busy and can explain the situation later. The man in pajamas speaks with an insane look, saying the sergeant's life is the best explanation he can offer. Back in the room, our hero is completely lost, not understanding a single thing that's going on. Suddenly, everything returns to normal. The boy realizes both intruders have vanished and that Sergeant Lo was left behind in that strange red ocean. That strange feeling washes over his body again. He wonders if the office is haunted and shouts for the presence to reveal itself. His eyes begin to glow with an intense green light, and one of his abilities seems to have activated on its own. A system screen appears informing him that his Whispers of Darkness ability has been activated. The skill forces any soul bound to a body in the vicinity to answer his questions. Surprised by the ability, the young man realizes what it means and wonders if there's a body hidden in Sergeant Woe's office. Out of nowhere, a mysterious voice thanks Shenyi for using the ability. Startled, the boy looks around the room and demands to know who's speaking to him. He then realizes the voice is coming from inside a locker and finds the tone of the voice strangely familiar. In a flash, he connects the dots and panics as he suspects who it might be. The voice continues talking about a hunter who was taken out by his own prey, while our young man reaches out to open the locker. Upon opening the door, he's faced with a terrible scene. The real Sergeant Lowe is inside, and the main character asks if it's really him. The officer's spirit confirms his identity with a tired and sad look. Our hero is horrified and asks what happened. The sergeant explains that the guy with sunglasses from the photo was the one who finished him. He reveals that the enemy was a special operations soldier and that at a critical moment his weapon failed, allowing the assassin to impersonate him to lure Shenyi. Our main character asks what the imposter's goal was, but the officer doesn't know, believing he was looking for answers. The boy understands everything the assassin wanted to know: how he survived the cursed statue. Luckily, the pajama-clad nutbog showed up and drew in the imposter's plans. The sergeant's spirit wonders about the sorcery, but the main character explains that the area outside turned into an ocean and then went back to normal, but the two guys vanished. With a dark look, Wo corrects the boy, saying that it wasn't sorcery, but an anomaly. He explains that an anomaly occurs when another world connects to ours, a phenomenon that can consume an entire area and even take people. The worst cases are called calamities. Curious, the young man asks what exactly a calamity is. The officer reveals that it's when powerful monsters from other worlds appear in ours, with the potential to cause mass destruction. Shenyi confirms he's heard of the city of Jeongan, knowing that an unprecedented earthquake completely destroyed the place. The truth, however, is far more terrifying. The sergeant says there was a classic example of a calamity in that, of the 13 million inhabitants, no one survived. The man warns that they don't have much time to talk, as the anomaly was small and had a time limit, so the assassin could return at any moment. The officer then gives urgent instructions, telling the boy to go to the armory on the 3rd floor and find a silver panel to enter a code. The young man is surprised by the length of the password and quickly starts writing it all down on a piece of paper. Owo says there's a special pen outside the armory that by reporting the truth with it, the guy will receive protection. With that, the sergeant's soul vanishes. A system notification informs him that the spirit has told him everything it could and has now departed forever. Our main character stands in silence for a moment, processing the bombshell of information he just received. Now he understands why the other police officers didn't want to get involved in his case. Even his sergeant can be taken out because of this. With this, the hero comes to a grim conclusion in this world. If you're not strong enough, you're just meat on someone else's plate. He considers exposing the assassin's identity but realizes it would be pointless. Carefully, he picks up the officer's cap, thinking the enemy might have accomplices at the station and would easily eliminate him. His only option is to follow the sergeant's instructions. He closes the locker, knowing that with his current strength, he can't guarantee revenge. With a grim face, he rests his head against the metal door, frustrated. Despite his weakness, he swears to himself that he will avenge the officer. He clutches the paper tightly and promises that Sergeant Woe will rest in peace. Suddenly, loud knocks on the door break the silence, and a voice from outside calls for student Shenyi, warning that an anomaly has occurred. The sound of a click echoes through the room and the office door finally opens. A police officer enters the room and calls for Shenyi, warning that there has been an attack and that everyone needs to go to the central system for a scan. Captain Wang tells the other officers to go downstairs, saying he'll have a quick chat with Sergeant Woe and the boy. The man tries to calm the main character, who is hiding, saying that as long as Sergeant Woe is the target of the spell, the young man will be safe. The captain then begins to walk slowly around the room, and his steps led him toward the metal lockers. With a serious expression, he assesses the situation, feeling that something seems out of place. He notices the body has been moved and, in a cold voice, asks if it was the boy who did it. Without even waiting for an answer, the captain pushes off the floor with his foot. At an absurd speed, the man dashes across the room, moving so fast he becomes just a blur. After searching the entire room, he finds nothing and wonders if the main character managed to escape. Suddenly, the man pulls at his own face, revealing a mask. He reveals himself to be Sergeant Woe's killer. The imposter then scoffs at his accomplices, calling them useless for messing up with a simple 15-year-old boy. Using a radio, the fake frames the student, issuing an alert for the entire city and ordering them to arrest Shenyi on sight. A system voice announces that the environmental scan is complete as the door closes. With the room now empty, a mysterious red light begins to glow on the door of the locker where Woe's body was. Shenyi steps out of the locker and wonders if they've left, confirming his suspicion that the killer had accomplices. The boy considers hiding in the nightmare realm but knows it would mean losing his chance for revenge. Determined, he jumps out the window and begins to climb the building, aiming to reach the 3rd floor to report everything. The main character leaps nimbly through another window, managing to get into one of the building's hallways. There, he finds the panel the sergeant mentioned and hurries to get the paper and enter the code into the wall. Before he can start, the boy hears a noise coming from the hallway, knowing he heard something. A fake Captain Wang appears and greets him with a sinister smile, wondering what Shunyi is doing there. Our young man makes up an excuse about studying for his exams, while mentally complaining about how long the code is. The enemy recognizes the panel and wonders how a kid got the code for the world government's emergency device. Furious, the man decides he can't let the boy get any further and throws a dagger with all his might. And what do you know? A red door, like the entrance to a secret level, just pops up out of nowhere, blocking the attack and saving our MC's skin. The fake captain's jaw drops, wondering what kind of broken ability this kid has. Shenyi feels relieved by that power, thinking a regular door would have turned to dust instantly. With a swift motion, the imposter yanks the dagger back, preparing for a new attack with even more rage. The man then charges forward with a massive blade in hand, yelling for the student to disappear once and for all. Again, a red door materializes in front of the boy, managing to block the powerful blow as if it were Captain America's shield. The enemy gets even more ticked off by the situation, vowing to end the young man's life one way or another. With all his strength, the man tries to push the door, wanting to crush the main character who is on the other side. The villain's body begins to press against the magical barrier, and he wonders how that simple door can stay fixed to the ground. Protected by his mysterious defense, Shenyi gives a victorious little smirk as he has finally finished entering the code. A system message appears on the screen, like Iron Man's Jarvis, informing him that the code has been verified and that the nearest high-level practitioner is being dispatched. The system announces that District Manager Keon Russian has been mobilized and, given the severity of the situation, immediate elimination has been authorized. With that, the system begins a 30-second countdown. The imposter just laughs, thinking that's more than enough time to erase the kid and get out of there. Without wasting any time, our main character turns and runs toward his red door, planning to use it as an escape route. The villain catches up to him and grabs his arm tightly, asking if the young man really thought he could get away that easily. With his fist glowing with a purple energy, the man prepares a deadly punch, and our boy thinks this is the end for him. The enemy screams for the young man to disappear once and for all, determined not to leave any witnesses behind. Suddenly, a man in a trench coat appears in a flash and with a powerful kick sends the imposter flying. The force of the impact is so great that Shenyi is thrown backward, startled by the newcomer's speed. Manager Keon prepares for his next move, saying there's no such thing as an unbreakable defense, only attacks that are too fast to be defended against. The villain's body becomes a decoration on the elevator wall, spidering red stuff everywhere. Keon then turns around all stylishly and asks how I do. Our hero, relieved, can only thank him for the epic rescue. The scene shifts to the National Security Agency, and they are now in a secure location so they can talk. The manager says he can handle the rest, just needing Shenyi to be honest about the access code. The young man explains that it was Sergeant Wo who gave it to him. Keon then deduces that Lo knew he was being targeted by the Silent Church and the Assassin, explaining that this organization is basically a fan club for some very crazy people. Our main character laments what happened to the sergeant. Keon agrees, lighting a cigarette and saying that perhaps Wo's sense of justice was his downfall. The man explains that the boy was lucky, as a Kunlun system has already tracked the assassin, who belongs to the Assassin's League and takes contracts online. Shenyi reasons that the assassin's employer must have a lot of money. Keon agrees, wondering why someone would spend so much to go after a student. The young man then asks about the Kunlun system, wanting to know why Sergeant Wo didn't use it to call for help. The manager reveals that Kunlun is the world government's central artificial intelligence, explaining that the system only intervenes in special cases, like the use of the access code. As for why Wo didn't use the code, the answer is simple: he didn't know his own weapon was compromised, which caught him by surprise. A woman appears holding Wo F. Yaichuan's steely exosuit, explaining that a virus was planted in the system, rendering it inoperable. Suddenly, the robotic hand begins to glow, starting to function again at the exact moment the sergeant was taken out. The woman states that this was the work of someone close to him. Shenyi finally understands why the officer's weapon failed, reflecting on how Wo was an honorable man who helped him to the very end. The boy feels frustrated, as the sergeant didn't even get a chance to use his weapon to defend himself when he was attacked. Sitting in a chair, Keon informs the young man that he is now part of the group and says he's going to give him his first lesson. With a serious expression, the manager advises him to be wary of people with bad intentions, stating that they are more terrifying than monsters. Our main character looks at the man with determination, promising that he will remember that advice forever. Keon puts out his cigarette and says he has arranged a meeting with Shenyi's parents, and the guy asks about the other two who weren't the anomaly. As they walk down a hallway, the man explains that the area will be quarantined, The young man questions why they don't stay to resolve the situation. The manager tells a scary story about a creature that destroyed half the city, saying he prefers assassination jobs to dealing with the church's anomalies. Suddenly, Keon stops walking, and an idea seems to have popped into his head, leaving him surprised. The man makes a call and requests a background check, wanting to know the connection between a certain Zhao Mengyu and Luo Ifeichuan. Upon hearing the response from the other end of the line, the manager is shocked and whispers that the situation just got seriously complicated. Shen Yi wonders who Zhao Mengyu is, guessing she must have had some kind of relationship with the sergeant. Shen Yi's mother interrupts the conversation with Keon, stating that her son needs to make an important decision before they sign the contract. The manager agrees and says we'll step out for a smoke. Sitting at the table, the boy's mother drops the bombshell, revealing a top-level secret they will no longer hide, that they come from a super prestigious family. Our guy is in shock upon hearing the name of the Sanjin Sheng clan. Our main character remembers reading about this clan in a history book, realizing his origins are extraordinary, as they were one of the few families with powers and divine artifacts. His mother explains that the guy's father was a prodigy, but he lost his strength practicing an ancient technique and was kicked out of the clan for refusing an arranged marriage. The young man's father explains the reason for the revelation. Since the boy has shown incredible talent, his grandfather would surely welcome him back, giving him access to privileges and resources. The man continues, saying that the family's inheritance is something many dream of, but if he joins the martial arts group, he'll lose that chance forever. In the end, the choice is his. After a moment of reflection, the boy looks at his parents and states with certainty that he's decided to join the martial arts group. His mother seems shocked by the choice, asking if he's sure, since his grandfather could give him a life of comfort and wealth. Our main character replies that he doesn't want to go back, as he doesn't want his parents to have to beg for him. With a smile, the young man asks them to believe in him. The parents are moved by their son's maturity. The father says he respects his decision, and the mother comments on how her little boy has grown up. The guy reflects on how, over the years, they hardly ever visited his grandfather's house, and each visit was met with a cold shoulder, not to mention the rest of the family. His only good memories from that time were of playing with the other children. In his past life, he faced hardships and only now understands what family love is. Back in the present, the manager congratulates the young man. The contract has been signed, and he is now welcome to the martial arts group. The manager then informs him that in a few days Shen Yi will take the entrance exams for the 3 most prestigious schools, and for that reason, he'd like the young man to stay at the group's facilities for the time being. The guy's mother is super excited by the news, saying those are the best schools in the world and encouraging him to do his best. With a determined smile, Shen Yi turns to the manager and says to consider him part of his team from now on. The scene shifts to a hospital hallway, where a girl is sitting alone on a bench, typing on her phone. With that little smirk of a soap opera villain, the girl celebrates that her gossip video has gone viral. She thinks Shen Yi's reputation is toast, like successfully cancelled. On her phone, the young woman finishes typing the message, thinking she went above and beyond what was asked of her, and that with this, she'll continue to be the perfect goddess everyone thinks she is. She also thinks that Shen Yi shouldn't blame her, as this is his destiny. He will become a loser, while she will become a figure he can never surpass. Suddenly, the girl's phone pings with a notification that was definitely not a like or a complimentary comment. The message warns that her post was flagged for misinformation and removed, and that the police have issued an official statement threatening legal action. The tables have turned. The girl panics, not believing they have proof of self-defense and wondering what the martial arts group in the school have to do with it. To her astonishment, the school congratulates Shen Yi on securing a contract, and the top 5 provincial schools have already offered him guaranteed admission. With this news, the young woman collapses to the floor, devastated, like a character in a soap opera, wondering how the main character managed to get into the group. The scene then takes us to the imposing building of the Human Martial Arts Group, a skyscraper that would make Avengers Tower look short. Inside an elevator, Keon informs him that the police sent a report on the scuffle, saying that many were taken out, 1 was captured, and that he earned 5 merit points from it. Shen Yi asks what merit points are, and the manager explains they're like in-game currency, used to buy techniques and information. Unfortunately, since the boy has no official position, he's left empty-handed. But the bad luck doesn't last long, as the main character's phone pings. A message from the government informs him of a special reward for his contributions, which has already been sent to the group's building. Arriving on the 105th floor, the guy thinks he needs some attack moves and assumes his reward is a combat technique. Keon advises him to avoid going out and promises to investigate the attack attempts. As they exit the elevator, a butler who looks like he's straight out of Gotham greets them. Keon says the online rumors have been dealt with and says goodbye, mentioning he has more work to do. A super elegant woman approaches and introduces herself as Yahello, congratulating the young man on joining the group and calling him little brother. Now in his new room, a video of Yahello plays on the television, thanking him for his support and even encouraging him to train hard, mentioning she got him VIP tickets. The butler, still in the room, is left speechless, recognizing the woman as Shenyi's favorite celebrity. Looking around, the employee notices that everything in the room is to the boy's taste, from the paintings and flowers to the snacks and the celebrity. The butler is impressed by the group's effort for a single recruit, while our main character goes to the balcony and reflects on the prestige that power brings. From the 105th floor, the guy admires the stunning city view, thinking about how everyone would love to reach new heights and witness such landscapes. With determination, he decides he will enter the nightmare realm at midnight, as he needs to get stronger and cannot fail the entrance exams. The clock strikes exactly midnight, the perfect time for Shenyi to begin his character leveling journey. With determination, our main character steps through the glowing door, entering the mysterious nightmare realm. Upon arriving, the guy is met with a desolate scene. The ground is covered with the remains of red bones, and he wonders what happened there. He even considers retreating so as not to jeopardize his evaluation. After all, acting recklessly could cost him dearly. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to him. It's the giant skeleton, lying in pieces on the ground and begging for help. The creature asks about the tonic from last time, but Shenyi replies that he doesn't have any more and doesn't know how to heal it. The giant skeleton believes its end is come, finding it ironic that its journey ends this way. Considering the creature a good business partner, our young man decides to help and tells the skeleton to hang in there. 2 long hours drag on and the skeleton, having lost all hope, thinks it has been abandoned forever. Finally, the red door reappears in the darkness, and the creature can't believe what it's seeing. Shenyi is back, but the door is too small for what he's brought. The skeleton asks, relieved about the reason for the delay. The boy explains that he spent everything he had on a giant fish tank and filled it with a calcium solution to heal it. Unexpectedly, the wall behind the skeleton begins to crack, and the guy is confused by what's happening. The wall shatters, revealing an invasion of humans and elves. The skeleton explains that this is an undead fortress under attack. With no strength to fight, the creature throws a space ring to the guy, telling the young man to put it on immediately. Using magic, the skeleton dissolves into a small form of energy, preparing to take shelter inside the ring. The small soul flies quickly and enters the ring on the main character's finger, and the object glows with a bluish light. The door behind Shenyi explodes violently, and the boy throws himself out of the way, ordering the portal to disperse at once. Back on the rooftop, the door dissolves just like Thanos snapping his fingers. Our young man thinks that he barely escaped being caught in that whole explosion. He then looks at the ring and asks if the skeleton is in there. The creature confirms, explaining that as an undead, it can be stored just like a Pokemon. Our hero takes the chance to jab at it, saying he knew it had some good items hidden away. The skeleton asks to absorb the liquid from the tank so it can jump in. Meanwhile, the main character says he suspected the creature's identity since the elven village and finishes by saying that since he saved it, the creature now owes him one. With that, the boy reveals he's going to the skeleton's world today and demands full cooperation. The creature is startled by the idea of returning to that insane battle, but says that since its treasures are gone, its help will be limited. Already submerged in the liquid, the skeleton relaxes and introduces itself as a battlefield scavenger, explaining that the really powerful items are snatched up on the spot, which is why it never finds anything good. Hearing this, our guy gets a simply brilliant idea. If he disguises himself as an undead soldier, he can wander the battlefield and farm a new title. He then asks if the skeleton has any spare equipment, preferably something that can hide his human aura. The skeleton agrees to check what it has, and suddenly, a pile of blue armor and weapons, like rare RPG loot, appears in front of the boy. Our main character looks at it and wonders what junk this is, asking if the skeleton is a scrap collector. The creature replies that they're war mementos and tells the boy to find something that fits. With a little effort, the young man manages to assemble a full set and even holds a token that summons a skeletal warhorse. The creature says the Centurion of Death's mask is exactly what he needs, and the guy is curious about what's so special about it. It turns out it's imbued with a potent death aura. With the mask and the gear, no other undead will notice his disguise. Now, our boy looks like a true undead warrior with a dark aura completely surrounding him. The skeleton comments that if he plays his cards right, he might even get a horse with that token. The guy already imagines himself riding the skeletal horse, just like the Ghost Rider. His plan is to pretend to be one of them and flee if danger appears, dreaming of getting a title like Ghost Knight. Our main character prepares to enter the portal, and the skeleton warns him not to get taken out, explaining that if that happens, they'll find the ring, and then it'll be completely screwed. The portal closes behind the young warrior, who just replies that he'll do his best not to get wiped out. Arriving at the location, he realizes everything is completely destroyed, looking like a raid boss just passed through. He remembers he got a dagger in the Elven lands, thinking the weapon might be useful for extra protection in this situation. The young man then begins to sneak carefully through a narrow passage, moving through the fortress's rubble. Suddenly, he comes face to face with several blades pointed in his direction, and his skull mask glows in the darkness of the passage. In what do you know, a group of human soldiers finds him and mistakes him for an undead. With friendly fire mode activated, the leader orders his men to take him out on the spot. Desperate, the guy takes off his mask and yells for them not to attack, trying to prove he's human and on the same side. The soldier doesn't believe his words and accuses him of being a traitor, raising his sword to deliver the final blow to the boy. Quickly, our main character uses his dagger to defend against the attack, and sparks fly as the two blades clash. The warrior is surprised to see the weapon that blocked his blow, recognizing the dagger and wondering if it's a nightshade. Our guide tells him to back off while a system window appears, explaining that the dagger can only be used by trusted human scouts. The leader understands the situation and helps the young man up, telling his men that the boy is on their side and dismisses them. After his soldiers leave, the warrior turns to the main character, asks if the guy needs help, and makes a strange hand signal. Shen Yi immediately recognizes the gesture as the sign for I love you in sign language and gets super confused, wondering if the soldier fell for him at first sight. Hold on there, warrior. However, our main character notices the man staring intently at his mask and concludes the gesture must have a hidden meaning. Realizing the skeleton gave him an important item, he decides to bluff, saying he's in trouble and would accept any help. The soldier seems to understand the message perfectly and offers the boy a solo combat pack to assist him on his mission. Surprised that his plan worked, the guy says thanks and takes the pack, asking for the soldier's name, who introduces himself as Roman. At that moment, the guard shouts for everyone to clear the way, as the mighty baron is arriving on his horse. The noble questions Roman for taking so long to return to the battle, and the soldier explains that he found a scout near the secret passage. Suspicious, the baron accuses our main character of being an undead spy and orders his arrest, ignoring Roman's warnings about the dagger. Unintimidated, our main character stares back at the baron and asks who the noble thinks he is to question his mission. The man introduces himself as Baron Warren and becomes furious at the guy's audacity, threatening to use force to pry his secrets from him. Our young man decides it's time to get out of there, summoning a portal and promising he'll remember Warren's name. Furious at the threat, the baron orders his men to finish off the scout, and the soldiers advance to attack without hesitation. With a swift move, the warriors try to hit the main character, but their blades only strike the ground with full force. Unexpectedly, our guy has completely vanished, and the soldiers wonder where he went in the midst of all the confusion. The baron is also perplexed by the sudden disappearance, and one of his men informs him that there's no secret passage in the area. Roman takes the opportunity to comment on the rumors, saying that some nameless assassins have joined the battle. The soldier continues, explaining that they are masters of stealth and mocks Warren's courage for revealing his identity. The baron starts to break out in a cold sweat upon hearing Roman's words, realizing he might have become the target of an elite assassin. Terrified by the thought, the noble screams for his men to retreat and simply vanishes in a cloud of dust, fleeing the scene faster than the roadrunner. Far away, our main character lands safely in his room, stepping through a portal that closes on the ceiling. Sitting on the floor, the guy complains about the baron and is grateful he prepared an escape portal. He then starts arguing with the skeleton about the hand signals, and the creature just defends itself, saying it had no way of knowing about those secret tricks. So you guys know the drill, right? If you want the continuation, just smash that like button and flood the comments asking for it. It helps out a ton and shows me that you guys want